One of the biggest questions from my video the other day doing the early impressions, the Moto Razr Plus after 48 hours, was the usability of the external display. And that makes sense because when you're comparing it to the Galaxy Flip 4, at least here in the United States, the biggest differentiating factor is that 3.6-inch external display on the Razr Plus. So today I want to take a deeper dive into that, show you what your apps are going to look like on it, what you can actually do, and what are some of the compromises you're going to have to make in order to use this display. And I was talking about how gorgeous the internal display is on the Razr Plus, and I thought maybe it was a Samsung panel or whoever made it. Someone in the comment section said that LG actually made it, and that made sense to me for a different reason. It actually reminded me of something, because this external display and how I use it reminds me a lot of how I would use the secondary display on the LG Wing. Just kind of the way the apps are set up. Let me see if I could get in here and show you how it's done. But see just how the apps are laid out, the usability of stuff on there. How I would use the secondary display is remarkably similar to how I consider and how I use the external display on the Razr Plus. So let's go into some of that now. The main ones social media is ones you want to look at. So we'll zoom in here. The one thing is you can customize this menu. The entire thing is customizable. So these quick toggles here, you could get rid of and change. They had a lot of goofy ones by default, ones you'd never use. So I went ahead and changed those. But if you just kind of press in here, you can manage the panels, and then there are different ones that you could choose from. There's health ones, there's gaming ones, there's Spotify, which is one you may want to add. A lot of people would want to add that one. So you could go ahead and customize this entire thing. You can have a different wallpaper on your external display than you do on your internal display. That's something that the Pixel Fold apparently hasn't used. That technology hasn't reached Google yet, but so that's good. So you can set up different ones. You have a little weather widget up here, date and time, and a little battery indicator down here. And this is where your notifications show up. If you have a message or something like that, you'll see them little bubbles on the bottom here. But that's kind of not what you're going into. So we'll go into apps. Now this you could customize as well. You could this shows you the apps that'll work on it, of what's downloaded, and you could go through and kind of check as many as you want. It'll put it into kind of an app drawer, and you could go through and check which ones that you want to use. So I have a few checked here that I think are pretty representative of what you do for your daily tasks. So we'll go ahead and go back out of that. So this is what you get when you scroll over, and like I said, see, it kind of works just like an app drawer. Pretty good, and it's nice and readable, which is good. Not quite a 1080p display, but it's 3.6 inches, so 1050 by whatever. It's almost 1:1, and it's 1100 nits brightness, which is the most important thing, because it's perfectly readable outdoors. So let's go into Twitter, show you what that looks like. You can see, this is your scroll, okay? This is with the extended view, so you do get more of the Twitter experience. However, this is part of the compromises you're going to have to start making. Because of where the cameras are, and there really isn't... I thought about different designs. There's really nothing they could do with the cameras. Because they have to be at least decent cameras, you want a decent sized sensor, so you couldn't put them along the bezel, you can't put them on the back. So this is kind of where they are. But you can see, your DMs are blocked, your notifications are blocked. So while scrolling is a much better experience in full screen, there are times when you're going to want to go back to the default view, which takes into account the camera hump and kind of gives you the full taskbar. I don't mind that much, only because of how simple it is to do. You know, that took a couple seconds, and I was in the view that I needed to be in, and because of the extra viewability and usability of it, because of the extra space, I really didn't mind that much. But Twitter scroll is fantastic. It's 144 hertz on the external display, so you could see how smooth scrolling was there. Let's check out Instagram. Same deal. So in full screen, it's nice because you can see a lot more of the posts. You can see full posts or mostly full posts on this. The scroll is nice and smooth, but if you need to get to your profile and stuff down here, it's blocked by the camera, so you're going to have to go up, switch over to default view, and then you can get to your profile and your reels and stuff like that. So there are little adjustments that you have to make, but I do think the trade-off is absolutely worth it, because a lot of times you're not going to be... You want to do quick scrolls of social media when you're using the external display. You're not going to be sitting there doing deep dives. If you're doing that, you're sitting down, you could do that. Open up the internal display and go to town. So that's something that I think is at least supremely usable. Let's take a look at some other apps that you have here. Grumpy Cat Weather works fine. Nice full screen weather, which I like a lot on there. No issues there. No compatibility issues with that. I like Discord is perfectly fine. Slack works well. I'm not going to open it up because there's stuff on there. A little bit of gaming. We could go into Pokemon Go, which I had open last night. Now, in the compatibility mode, it's a little tougher to play. It doesn't really, the default view rather, it does the icons and stuff like that, and the notifications and the pop-ups and the menus really don't work that well. However, if you switch it over into the full screen, it becomes pretty playable. You don't get the full 144 hertz for some reason. I don't know if that's an app thing or something like that, but you could still go ahead and catch a Pikachu. See, you have to work around the camera hump a little bit. Curveballs, you got to start a little bit left of center because that's the best way, but you can still do it, and you can still catch Pokemon and have a little fun. If you got a few minutes, you don't want to open up the full display, you could use the external display, catch a couple Pokemon. If you got to hit a gym, if you're a Pokemon Go player, this is actually pretty good. If you got to hit a gym real quick, but you don't want to pull up your phone, if you want to just hit that Pokestop, you can without having to pull up the external display and completely stop whatever you're doing. So I think that's actually pretty cool. Now, this is the mistake I made the other day about Astro's Odyssey, those games. I thought it was bloatware. It's not. There are the things that they add to the phone, Moto puts on by default to kind of highlight the external display, and that's fine. I was just, because Moto has a history, especially with their less cheaper devices, to put stuff like this on there, just not give you any choice. So I kind of, even though this is not a cheap device, I kind of had I had a flashback to that. But you can see that's just kind of a side scroller. Side scroller is probably being generous, but they do include that as a default on there. Maps is actually incredibly usable, and this is something that is really interesting, because turn-by-turn navigation is something that you'd absolutely want to be doing with this, because you don't want to leave that more sensitive internal display open. You don't want to have that open in your car, especially if you're navigating. How are you navigating? You have this in a cup holder. Do you really want that sensitive internal display open to potential damages or something, or somebody drops something in the car, somebody spills something in the car? I know it has slight rain resistance on this device, but you still want to be using the external display, and turn by turn, and the map looks absolutely great on this. It's bright enough, it works, it's smooth. I really love the way that Maps is integrated on the external display, and that's one of the things that really just shows you how useful having some extra real estate out here can be. Chrome, you can get away with full scroll. You have ESPN up here, works fine, super smooth, no issues, because everything's going to be at the top when you want to navigate. So I have really no issues there. You can get some extra usability. You want to scroll real quick on the fly, you can do that. YouTube, have that pulled up. This is what your videos are going to look like on YouTube. Not the greatest experience in the world. I don't know why you'd be doing that. If you're really sitting down and having the time to view YouTube, you could probably just pull up the internal display, but it's available there, and it works if it's something that's enticing to you. And then Amazon. You want to do it. You forgot something, you want to look up something real quick, the Prime Day deals, you can get a full experience. Again, you got that compatibility thing. Can't get to your account down here, so you're going to have to pull it up into default view in order to get into your settings. But as long as you're willing to do that, perfectly usable. But you can see there's a lot to like. You got the default weather app. There's a lot to like on this huge display. Let me pull up the keyboard as well, because the keyboard experience, see, this is what I was talking about in the initial review. This is the line you'll see, okay? So you'll have no context on the messages that you're responding to. However, this is nice. This is about the size of the regular keyboard, maybe 10% less, but my thumbs were perfectly comfortable typing across that, and I really felt it to be a nice experience. So if you just need to pound out a reply really quickly, you could do so on the external display. But overall, I think, it's a fantastic advantage to the Flip 4. It is something that is sorely needed on these devices, and it's not enough. It's not enough of a display where it's going to take away some of the disconnect of the internal display. Meaning, like, you're not going to be able to survive a whole day on here. So while you can get certain things done, and it's nice to have them done a little bit easier than you would on a Flip 4, you're still going to need the internal display for a lot of stuff. So it's not like it's completely replacing it. And if you want to kind of disconnect a little bit and use your phone less, you get more usability here, but you're not going to be sitting there all day doing stuff on the external display. It'll still be better to do it on the internal display, but it is nice to have that little bit more flexibility on a device like the Razr Plus. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.